Hello, everyone, and welcome to Concordia University's Fourth Space. Thank you for joining us for today's event, The Instant and the Continuum, Exploring Printmaking Animation with Beatriz Carvalho. Now, to help situate you, we're streaming to YouTube live from Fourth Space, and we are situated here on unceded Indigenous lands in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal. Here at Force-Space, we work with our university community to help mobilize knowledge, co-create daily activities, examine research questions, projects, things in development across the university. And we're running today's event as a live stream Zoom meeting as well, and we welcome comments or questions there via the chat. Those of you here in the space, if you have a little bit of a Q&A later on, just raise your hand, we'll bring a microphone over to you. Okay, to help us introduce Beatriz, it's my pleasure to pass the microphone over to the Associate Professor in Film Animation and Cinema, Celia Sawadogo. Celia, great to have you back.
Thank you. All right, so I'm here just to introduce Beatriz. So Beatriz is a Brazilian filmmaker, animator, illustrator. She came to Canada in 2011. And she's graduated from the Sao Paulo University in architecture and urbanism before she came here. And then once she arrived, she explored a little bit what was going on in Quebec, and she decided to join our program. So she graduated from our animation program. I don't remember which year, but it's been a while. So she decided to become an animator, exactly. So she graduated from our program. So currently she is our artist in residence. So she came back after doing several projects. So she published several books, but I don't want to spoil it. She made several animated films. She worked with different artists and collaborators, and she's going to tell you all about it. And currently she is our artist in residence. So she's with us for at least a year, doing some research, and she's here to show us a little bit what she's done, to encourage us also to participate. So after the presentation, there will be a workshop, and we'll also get a chance to do our own collaboration between animation and printmaking. So I hope I'm covering everything. Oh yeah, so the workshop will be monotypes, prints, and animation. Okay, so just to be precise. I think I said everything. Anything else I should say? No?
That's great.
All right, so let's start it.
Thank you, Celia. So, should I go? So, hello everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a great pleasure for me. I want to thank, before I start, I just want to thank Martin Lefebvre, the chair of animation, Celia for all the help, Shira, Luigi, Luke, all the professors, Douglas and Birdie from Fourth Space, and Diogo, my husband, for all the help. Anyway, it's been a challenge, and I've learned so much until now for this couple of months, and it's a great pleasure. I feel really privileged to be able to be here as an artist in residence and to share my research, and also to be a teacher. Thank you for the students too that were with me these 3 months in the storyboard class. So I will start. You see there's lots of screens, so I might be a little bit like... So I will start with a little bit of my origin. So I come from Brazil. As Celia said, I graduated from architecture and urbanism. So I did my graduation and my master in architecture and urbanism. So that's when I started to draw and to make art. So printmaking, I started to do monotype and painting at that moment. And I also started working with monotype, doing cartographies and maps while in my masterclass. So the act of drawing at that moment was pretty much connected to project, invisible things, cities, houses, making things exist. And then, so my experience with monotype and with printmaking is pretty much autodidactic. I did some courses, but I kind of developed a way to work with it. I fell in love with monotype. That's why I kept doing for so long. And one of the things I really like working with this technique is the imprevisibility of it. So I'll talk more about it later. So these are some works that I did while in my graduation in architecture, the maps I was talking about. In 2011, so I immigrated, and I came to Montreal to study animation, and I really wanted to put my drawings in movement or create movement with my drawings. And after graduation, so I came to Concordia, I graduated, and this was my first work after graduation. After graduation, I had my kids. I have to say, because you see a gap, and if you go up, it's a gap, but I was doing a lot other things. But then I did this project, which was like a children's book, and it's called Analyse à la mer, and I worked with, maybe I can show, I worked in this book, so I worked with monotype, and you can see a little bit of it. I'll leave it here if you want to see afterwards. And it tells a story about this girl, that little girl that immigrates with her family. And I think this is an important project for me, because I started to work with monotype. But I did a lot of I did a lot of digital work on the monotypes, but before it was more abstract, and then it became more and more illustrative and figurative. So, and also, so I'll leave it here. We can go back, Birdie, to the PowerPoint. So one thing that is important in this project is that immigration started to be like a really important theme of my work. So it followed all the other projects. I talk a lot about immigration, but in this book, it's a point of view of this little girl that one day this is the character design, she wakes up with a little bit of the storyboard for a book, so it's different than a storyboard for a film. She wakes up with a big pain in her heart, which in Portuguese we call saudade, which is this feeling of longing. And then she goes back to her objects, and every object takes her to a memory, and she goes into this journey to discover her identity. And then in the end, well, she goes into this journey, and she discovers in the end also like all the things that she likes in her new life. So the next project I want to share is this. It's another publication that is here, and it's called La Traversée. It's my second publication in Canada. It's like it's a comic book, and so it's all made also with monotype, like this. It's made with monotype, and it also has the theme of immigration as the central theme. But this project tells the story of this adolescent, this teenager girl that was forced to immigrate, but it's a different approach. So it's pretty existential. It's as if we were looking to her journey from within herself. So she has a lot of questions, existential questions, philosophical questions. And I did all in monotype, and there's no digital work in this one, just a little bit. So it was kind of another process in the creation of the images, and it connects more with the animation process, right? Because every fragment, every panel, it's a kind of a fragment of a bigger scene, as if you can imagine what it's like. What is the thing that you're not seeing? You have to imagine. And Yeah, so this was the second publication that I made in Canada, and so I'm going to show you some parts. So it's really philosophical at some point. She goes into this journey of thinking. One thing that I find it's important for me in this project is that I want to talk about immigration really in the point of view, in the scale of humanity. So really close to one's feeling more than the macro system of it. So before I keep going, I want to talk a little bit about, I organized the thematic field of my work in these two projects, but also in the next three projects that I will show you. And immigration, belonging, the idea of liquid identity, and the concept of existential immigrants, which is the immigrants that chose to immigrate. So more in the psychology of all the feelings and the dichotomies that they live in their journey of immigration. Home as a territory, home as a movement, home for a displaced body, time, the feeling of time for someone that left their country. So rupture time, passing time, circular time, parallel time. So I find this is kind of the field of themes that I move in. In terms of methodology, so I have been working a lot with monotype as the printing technique and animation. So what I find in these two fields of practice is that monotype has this really important, it's a monotype, right? It's just one-time print. So you cannot reproduce this print anyhow, even if you want, you can't. So there is this importance of the instant, of the gesture, of the mark. And the uniqueness of the image and the gesture and the imprevisibility of it. I will show you. I don't know if all of you know how to do, but it's really like it's a kind of printing that you don't have the control of everything that's going to go into the image. And I really like that, this process of showing up the image. In the part of the animation, and what I find it's interesting of this meeting, of the encounter of monotype and animation, is that animation happens in the in-between of frames, right? In the in-between of drawings. So it's our brain connecting the two drawings that make this illusion of movement. So usually when you do an animation, you think, okay, I need to do a continuous drawing. One have to connect to the other one. That has to be like a perfect movement, so it's credible. And when you do the monotype, you can't do this, you don't achieve the perfection ever. It's the contrary. So it's kind of a contradiction that I find it's really interesting. It's like, okay, so let's do more and more and more. And yeah, so I think this, for me, I think it's something that it's really inspiring to keep doing it. And there's another third element in my animation work that is the documented sounds. So the sounds that I record from reality, either like a documentary, like someone speaking, or the sounds that the residual sounds of reality. And what I find it's interesting in this triptych, like in these three fields, is that the residual sounds that I collect, it's like a piece of the reality that it's always present, right? The sound, when we hear a sound from reality, we kind of imagine what it was. Like we have this experience, the connection with the experience. Is it clear? So for me, it's these three really important aspects of the work. It will be more clear when you see the project. So some questions that I do to myself, it's what tensions and creative possibilities reside in this encounter between animation and printmaking, and how do timing, texture, and visual rhythm shift when animation is created with print-based techniques? Like, there is something that print-based techniques bring to animation as a specific thing, or what happens to the illusion of movement when we do with printing, or when it's so imperfect, or... So I'll show you, now I'm going to show more animation work. And this is a film, the short animation that I did when I was in the Projet Alembic, which is an experimental creative lab for emerging filmmakers from a National Film Board. It was the first version of it. And the production was made by Anne-Marie Bousquet and executive production by Christine Noël. And when they invited me to do this project, I was going back to Brazil after 5 years of being away. So I did a poetic travel journey, like a journal, kind of a journal journey, I think, that narrates my return to my homeland. And there's a whole like feeling of, you know, like, is this the place I left, or is this the same place? And you will see in the film this questioning that comes. And it's made with 2D animation. So I did all the animation on TV Paint, but I retraced them, the frames, on with monotype. So here are some stills. This is some tests that I did with the compositing, and I brought some frames, some drawings of the film. If ever you guys are curious to see, I can show later. It's yeah. So as you can see, there's the positive version of the monotype and the negative version of the monotype. So throughout the film, I will use both of the versions, and I'll show you later how it happens, like in the light table. So at NFB, I had the privilege to have a really nice like office to produce and all the setup with the monotype. And it's pretty much like in all animation process, like a repetitive process that I will retrace all the drawings. And you see there's the light table that produces like another camera image that I photograph. And there's also the print of the negative. So having the same frame, I have 3 versions of the same image, right? So the positive version, the negative version inside under camera, and the print of the negative version. Is it clear? Can you kind of visualize this there? So, and then afterwards in the compositing stage, I can work with these 3 possibilities of the same frame, of the same scene. It's not always that I need to do that, but it gives me the possibility of. Yeah, it's pretty much like 1,400 times that. So now I'll see the movie.
Today I'm returning to my imagined homeland to find my attachment to the world. Before I left, I marked my path. Have the waves erased it? I encounter possible sounds of myself. The street market, the music of the language. My mother's home, coffee, toasted bread with butter, the smell after a tropical rain. Everything is the same and different at the same time. I feel like an iceberg breaking off of solid ground. My body is foreign. I don't belong anywhere. My identity flows across boundaries without becoming fixed. I never stay. I will leave again.
Thank you. So I'm gonna show you just, I don't know how, like this, you know the scene of the iceberg, for example? So these are the frames. In that project, I didn't have time to take chances, right? So I had to do a really, like this has to work like steps. So this is, so I did everything kind of separated. So this is the line, for example, of the iceberg in monotype, retracing monotype. And this will be the, you know, the volume of the iceberg that I had to compose afterwards, and also, and this is the print of the negative of the same frame. So, and the same with the scene where she takes the mango, and then it's the line, and then it has to be really clean monotype. So then I don't need to clean a lot because I didn't want to do a really, like I need to control a little bit. And then here the how do you say that? The inside the mango, the color. So in this project, I really, which is kind of a interesting thing with the monotype because it's really hard to control, but I had to do a really clean drawing. I didn't have to do, I wanted to do like a clean visual because it was already going to move a lot. But so in the next project that I will show, I have two, I think it's, I'm trying to move, Birdie. Can you move for the next slide? Oh yeah, thank you. So these two last projects, it's their work in progress, right? So they're really open, in process. The last one is my residency, so I'm just doing these things. I'm just reading into the, in the process. This one is a film that I just finished the development phase, and it's a short animation about also immigration, but it's a documentary in where I interviewed 15 immigrant women. And I just the film will be a short documentary film, so I had to choose two of them, which is Emeline Pornillos and Hind Banchekrum. They shared with me their experiences with immigration, but mainly with the main theme would be the meaning of home, belonging, and time. So it's super philosophical and existential, and I'll show you some images that are part of the project, but they're not going to be in the film, this one is specifically, but it's kind of the layouts that I have been creating for the film. And the visual aspect of it, it's less clean, you know, it'll be more experimental. And I have a little test.
Est-ce que tu sais pourquoi tu es partie? Est-ce qu'on sait toujours pourquoi on part?
Avant de venir. Oui, c'est loin. Mais l'eau, la plage, toujours les dimanches, on allait à la plage avec mes grands-parents et puis avec mes parents et on découvrait des trésors à la plage toujours. Des coquillages évidemment et des petites roches. Et l'eau était limpide, elle était transparente, le sable était doux et blanc, très à l'aise de ne pas être séparé, d'être toujours en relation entourée d'une manière très naturelle. Mais c'était l'enfance aussi, je ne me sentais pas séparée, comme j'ai pu me sentir séparée plus tard. Ça te touche?
So for me, this project is important because first, I'm researching more and more how the monotype can be in the animation, the controlling, not controlling, the residues, how can I leave the marks? I'm still researching that relation between them both between monotype and animation. And also because as I grew as an immigrant, as the time passed, my questioning also changed. So this project really connects to what I am living right now as a woman, as an immigrant, also as a mother, away from home. So all the questions that I had, I shared with the women that I went, as if they really were my questions. So I really was questioning this for myself. So all the projects are anchored in my experience. And for me, it's the easiest way to work with art because then it makes so much sense to do the project. So I'm really getting, I'm being moved by it, and I'm really being transformed by what they hear. Every time I hear them, I'm just like, oh, it's touching me all the time. It's not something that it's away or distant from my own experience. And yeah, so next project. So then I was invited to do this residency, and then I was like, oh, okay, now I don't need to do for, this year, I don't need to do any product or film, so I'm going to go and dive in, do everything I always wanted to do, but didn't have time to do, and I don't need the commitment to finish a film, which is a freedom, right? So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to research all these little things that I want with monotype, and I want to try new techniques of printmaking with animation. So the sounds I have been recollecting is the sounds of my own home. So the theme of home still remains, and how this residues of sounds and how this family life brings the meaning of belonging to for myself. So I have been working a lot with cycles of animation because, as you know, animation, it's a lot of work to do a whole scene, and it becomes a little bit impossible depending on the printmaking technique you choose. So I decided to work just with cycles and loops. And so then it's like a fragment that I can multiply and play in the compositing stage. I'm exploring monotype still. I'm continuing my exploration, but now I'm trying new things like linocut and dry point in the acetate. Also always thinking about cycles that will close at some point or that I can reproduce in the compositing. I'm working a lot with layering in the compositing stage. I'm exploring the construction of fragmented narrative. So while you feel like I'll show you a little video that I've made. Yeah, and so these are some cycles that I have been working on. They are supposed to play out like all together, but it's pretty heavy. And as you can see, some scenes, you see the scene in the positive and in the negative version. Yeah, they take a while to go. And then I'm going to show you a little, like a film that I did with all these cycles and sound, collected sound.
Enxagar a boca.
Tá bom. Tá bom, te amo, tchau. Le vent. Moi, c'est comme une chose invisible, des coups de poing invisibles, mais qui ne blessent pas. Langage, c'est... Mais pour moi, c'est de l'air blanc.
So I'll just finish now, but with these two questions, and so questions that are important for me in the work. So visual fragments and documented sounds. How the closure act, or the phenomenon where we observe parts of the narrative but we don't see it all, how can we imagine the whole story when we see just a little fragment of the scene and we hear the sound of its reality? You know, so this kind of relationship between these two things, the fragments we see and the totality of the real that we hear in the sound, and how can these textures and marks and loops and the timing of the loop, how this relates to the subjects of time, longing, and home? I don't have the answer for that. So I'm working on, you know, it's something that interests me in the work. What I can do to finish that, I thought about showing you guys in the under camera set up some images and some And this is Mia, my daughter. She will help me. Quer pegar aquela mãe? Você quer ser minha assistente? Pega aquela ali, e também os acetatos aqui. So, for example, these some things that I didn't do before. So these are the matrices. How do you say that in English? Matrix? For the scene where for the scene in the coffee scene. So these are the printmaking in acetate. And in one version of it, I also photographed the acetate under camera. And these are the prints. So it's a loop, right, with 15 frames. The scene of the bird, for example, I made with a lino cut. And I had some different prints of it. Also these ones that it didn't work well, but I found they were interesting as well. So I kind of used in the composition. So everything that don't work, sometimes I like more than the thing that works. But so this is the other one, the other scene made with acetate. So it's really ordinary. They're with like plastics because there is a whole process in printmaking, you know, in the metal with the acids and all. But the way I do while animating, it needs to be possible, right? So it has to flow. It has to be done, like all the frames. So I will leave it here for you guys to see. And what else? Oh, this is the scene where I have the positive and the negative print. So if you see it closely, like all the monotypes, they have a lot of irregularities, you see? And when they are put together in a frame by frame timing, they make this movement. And in this project, I tried to leave everything. I didn't clean it all. I didn't touch the Photoshop to clean or take marks. So I left them be like as much, you know, with marks and traces that I could. Yeah, so I think that's it. I'll just do a little demo and then I'll open for questions. And if you guys are curious to see the drawings, they will be here. Obrigada, amor. Okay, so usually the easier way to do would be to do the animation before, print the animation, and retrace in monotype, right? I have been trying to do straight ahead animation while I print, but then it's challenging, but it's something that I want to try more in the residence because then I have to animate in the ink, but I print. So it's like a double timing straight ahead animation because I have to kind of see, anyways, it's more complicated. So usually I have a peg bar and an animation paper, so everything is in the right place. I have to confess, usually I don't use water-based ink, but it's really toxic, so I don't recommend. And we can't do this in the university, we'll do the water-based ink. Because it's different texture, really, like it's a different, it feels different. But you have to find the pleasure and the way to do with each ink. And it's kind of personal, you know? So I'm just putting these two brands together because the water-based ink, what happens is that it dries really quickly. So I'm kind of mixing them. I never did that before, guys, to do like a demo like this. So just be patient with me. So I'm going to do like a little, like a thin layer. I always have this, the under camera set up with a camera. Like I usually will be doing like here. I'm just doing this here for the, and usually I take like a used paper, and I always take one before, because so then I take a little bit of the ink excess, and then I'll just put the paper, and I will retrace the animation, and then it's really basic, but then you can, everywhere I touch is going to create. In this case, there is not many. Anyways, you see, like if you can't see really well, but there's a lot of marks that it happens here. So if I put more ink, and every time, sometimes I just, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I put the ink. And sometimes I'm going to do the second frame. And it's going to be more ink, right? So it's going to be all with full of marks. So you kind of never know. You have to learn to control the uncontrollable. So that's it. And so if you have any questions, and after we are going to do a little break, and then for the ones I will propose for you who want to participate, a little exercise of animation and draw and monotype in the other side of the room, just to play with retracing some frames or creating frames and retracing them. And if you have any questions.
If anybody has any questions, you just raise your hand. We'll bring a microphone over. And also, there are some people joining us via Zoom. If you have questions, pop those into the chat. We can read them out.
Hello. Hi, Beatriz.
Hi.
My name's Carlo. I'm actually a print major, and this semester was I was part of the first class in the print major section to do animation.
Cool.
And for me, my question is related more for the technique of multiple colors on your prints. In our last project, we tried 2 colors to create 3 in our backgrounds to animate. But then with monotypes, because of the technique that you're doing, you're kind of like, you're inking your plate one color, and then you're gonna trace your shape. But then if you wanted your shape to have, let's say the mango was...
You're gonna change, you do another second color?
Yeah?
Yeah.
But do you let it dry? Do you put it back? Like, in terms of that?
I did some, like for example, these ones, I did this, and then I let it dry, and I did that one. But lots of times, I will work on After Effects. I find it's more interesting to work in the same, layer, if you can work with. But then lots of things will happen when you put them. For example, like when I had to do a really clean print, not to put the orange here, because usually, or I work in the same layer with, like, I let it dry, I go back, I ink another color, and then I go and retrace the second. Or I'll do it After Effects, depending on the hush you have in your project and how much you can take risks, let's say. And in After Effects, it's like a tool that, it's not the actual paper, but you can do a lot of things. You can work a lot with, changing colors and putting in layers. Yeah, but for the acetate one, it's more complicated then, because it's just more work in the printing. So I find the monotype technique is much more versatile, can kind of play more, it doesn't take long. You can do like several monotypes in half an hour. Thank you for the question.
Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I am also a huge printmaking enthusiast, and I was wondering if you had tried other printing techniques before, such as screen printing or lithography, or just printmaking?
No, just monotype and acetate and now linoleum. I was like, I would love to test other more complicated, like lithography, but I just don't see, like, I think just really small loops would work.
Yeah.
Because if you have like 1,400 drawings to do,
Yeah, true.
I can't even imagine that. But if ever you do, I would love to see it too. Like, it's like, I find it's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how these two universes go. But if when you manage to do, it's amazing. Like, it's really beautiful. Visually, it's amazing. Yeah, but I just tried this one. It's like I'm in the process of trying to.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we had another question up here.
Hi. What artists inspire you in your work, and how they influence you in your process?
It's a hard question. Why is it such a hard question?
I'm sorry.
It's just trying to move. Well, I really like non-narrative animations and installations. Like Tabaimo animator that do like the narrative, they are not finished in themselves, where you can kind of imagine the rest of the animation. And I really like more this kind of animation. And as like visual artists, I don't know, I've seen some movies with animation and printmaking. I don't remember the filmmaker right now, but like this like more fragmented narrative, I think are the ones that I am more inspired and geared towards this kind of work. I don't remember any name right now because I'm nervous, but I will tell you later.
I actually have a question about the themes that you're talking a lot about immigration and how it's a theme that you've been evolving with. So I'm just curious about the evolution, because you obviously you came here in 2011 and you've encountered a lot of people around you who are also experiencing the immigration process. Mm-hmm. How do you feel you've evolved from one to another, and how does it reflect in your work? How do you feel the connection is made? Mm-hmm. And the other part of that same question would be, why would you choose that aesthetic to represent, I mean, I know you talked a little bit about animation and the monoprint and how they are sort of contradictions. Mm-hmm. So I would just like to hear a little bit more about your experience as immigration.
Well, like in terms of theme, I find, like I really feel like I evolved since, like the projects kind of followed my own questioning about immigration. So I went to several stages of immigration, right? So in the beginning, and all the fantasies of staying or not staying, and then having kids, and then choosing to stay, and then building a home, and then what is home, and then I find really, and now with my age, and now that I decided to stay, and then going after all these women that also have, because when you decide to stay, it doesn't mean that everything's sold, right? So all these questions they are open and they are evolving as we age. So I really feel that the projects from the books to the comic and to the films, and yeah, for sure they are kind of evolving with all my questioning and my experience. And I find the monotype, this residual visuality, that, and also I have been learning with the cycles now. You know, it's a new thing for me too, to choose to work just with cycles, that you kind of you are in this repetition visually, and then it kind of, I have this feeling that it makes us think more about what we hear, because it's not, everything is not descriptive in the image, so you kind of start reflecting on your own experience. So it's I think it's you know, I don't have the answer completely, but I am geared towards this visuality, that it's kind of unstable and interesting, and it doesn't say everything. So it's really like a more, even a sensorial kind of feeling from the animation. Yeah, I don't know how it like relates directly with the immigration theme, but I find maybe, like sometimes I find that it can brings us more to our own selves and nostalgia, longing, or memories. For example, you know, when you see a fragment of something and then you hear like a child like laughing, or does it take you to your own life, or does it take you to a story of someone, or, you know, because I would love that the film gets the viewer to their own life, even more than to my story, you know. Yeah. Thank you, Julia.
I have a question. If I understand the process correctly, you shoot with the camera the result of the printing, right?
Yeah. I didn't say that part, but yeah, I would go to the other camera and shoot and put in the dragon frame.
Okay. Have you ever tried to scan it with the scanner?
Yeah. I do that too, depending on the image. For example, these images, you know, there are more like acetate prints. I would scan them. And then I do the registering, right? The register. There's little marks here. I do like 4 marks, so I can put them together afterwards. So I do these marks, the registration in the matrix, and then I'll print them, and then in After Effects, or you can do this in Photoshop before, you put them all like together. So then when you put them as a sequence, they will work better. Sometimes, because of the printing process, it's not perfect, so I have to go back and in After Effects and kind of put them together for the movement to be more smooth.
Is there a difference between the two graphically? Is there a difference between the picture and the scan?
Yeah, I think I prefer the scan. But for example, when I do under camera with the lighting like this, then I need to use the camera, right? So I kind of use both. I think for the quality of the image, especially, you know, all these little marks and details of the printing, it's better to scan, because the photographed image is not, but depending on how many drawings you have, it can be really intense. So everything depends on the project too, and your time.
Thanks.
Beatrice, do you want to show us the dragon share on your computer? You could share the screen so you could show us what that does. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll share. Wait. Okay, so Yeah, so for example, so I did this little animation. For example, like I will put and photograph. I'm not sure I can, okay, wait. Okay. Okay, for example, you're not seeing the image I'm seeing, but I did some tests. Okay, I'll just show you guys. I was playing around, okay, with some tests. I wanna, like, how can I'm not seeing the image. 3. Okay, now I see. So I would, for example, I'm not. You see, so it's not super in register. Yeah, it has to be set up better. I think I won't do this right now, but I made like a little. So you just put in the dragon frame. Like we will do this in the for example, like you say, this is the under camera. I was just playing around, okay, to see if it works. Yeah. Oops. Okay, yeah, that's it. So usually I put in the dragon frame and would go, and depending on under camera or positive or negative, then you just choose if you want to scan or not. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I would like to have one. I would like to take you back to the short movie where you interviewed the women.
Uh-huh.
Was there something common, a common theme or a common feeling among you as women related to immigration or belonging?
Yeah, good. Thanks for the question. I think each one has different experiences, but one thing that it stayed really strongly in these 2 women that I chose to use the interview is that the feeling of always being searching for a home, it's something that really stays, each one in their own. It's this constant feeling of not belonging, but almost belonging, and like searching for an imaginary home. I connect to this, and I feel that it's really present in some women. Like immigration is so individual, but I find this feeling it's kind of common in between them. Thank you.
Hi, it's me. I have 2 technical questions for you. So when you do your prints on linocut, when you do a linocut, have you ever tried to do reduction to?
No.
Okay.
I want to do that, but this was the first lino with the bird. Was the first lino cut I tried in animation, and I did this. I didn't like to do this in the same, because it's a lot of work to put them together. So next time I'll do, probably like soon, I will do like in different
sections and do a reduction to create your.
Yeah, and then you can maybe if they're the same size, you can plan a reduction in the color, like with the colors, right? Like better.
Yeah.
But I like this was the first, and I had to put them together, and they are still off, right? There's some, they kind of got off, but I use that as a, like sometimes it's really interesting when this happens too,
Like and in terms of that, like when you have your offsets and your mistakes, and like whenever I go to print class, it's one of our profs always preach that sometimes your mistakes are the ones that you really like.
Yeah.
And in one of your films, you had mentioned, me too, I also was the one who immigrated here, and I understand the liquid identity that you had mentioned, and I wondered, like, you accepting the mistakes and imperfections of printing.
Yeah.
If it relates to that side of your storytelling.
Yeah, it's. Thank you so much for saying that. But yeah, I think so. I think this non-control of the technique and this feeling of instability which immigration really brings. You know, you're not all like you never feel really settled. Yeah, there is something with this constant movement and non-control of things too, right? Because you don't. It's different from someone that has like a base and stability and talking about. I know the different experiences, but yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And we have time for one last question here.
Thanks. Beatriz, I just wanted to say thank you for this amazing presentation. Both a comment and a question. First, you make it seem very easy, and we know, of course, it is not easy what you're doing. It's so impressive. Also, I don't know what the term is for this, but you have the ability to, when I see your work and see you talking about it, it makes me want to do it. So whatever you call that, it's amazing how you have this superpower. I think it's such a fantastic thing that you are bringing to our program. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
And I wish I could take your class. Maybe we can make an exception. I'll talk to Martin. Yeah, you might have a full house of instructors in the back. So my question actually is about the sound, because I'm really intrigued by this latest work that you're doing, this research working with loops. And I know that, you know, relatively speaking, it's easy to come by sound. We can record much more material than you can generate visually. So my question is, what or when do you choose to record sounds? And then from those recordings, how do you choose what to use to combine with your images?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Legion. Thank you for everything you said. So I have a lot of fun recording the sounds, especially for the residency. I'm having a lot of fun, so I record them all the time. But I feel the most expressive moments, for example, shower, you know, brushing the. I'm having really truly fun, But I record a lot, so I have been recording a lot, and then when for this research, I create the loops, always having in mind this theme of being home and feeling the identity of our home. All these moments, you know, the rest that are kind of funny and that goes fast, and we never perceive this, you know, in our daily lives, like when they're talking with the grandmother through Skype and you know, the brushing, you know, all this little, like this is for me, so I'm just aware and I record a lot, and then when I put them together, I start with the image, and then I take the most expressive, maybe I take the moments that are more descriptive sometimes, so it helps with the connection with the image, and it's kind of intuitive, to be honest. Like in the residency, it's been really intuition, and you know, the funny moments are the more like the carotte, you know, the one is like, you know, the cuisine, or the you know, the kids saying things. Oh, I have emotional connection to this too, you know, this residual moments. But I don't have an answer, I think. But it's it's intuitive, but it also connects with, okay, how can I help ground a little bit in the scene, but not completely. So I'm not doing like a brushing teeth thing, but maybe the movement of the loop has to do with this movement of brushing the teeth, you know, like, so it's kind of sensorial a bit. It's a mixture of it, but it's really fun, right? I don't know, I find the sounds. I wish you could have heard more, like louder. Yeah.
Beatriz, it's me, Amber here. I just wanted to thank you from Fourth Space. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all of you for joining us here in ForSpace. We're going to take a short break, then we're going to switch over into a workshop mode. Those of you joining us online, we'll be closing up the Zoom and the live stream now, but just to let you know, this remains available on our YouTube channel if you'd like to revisit it or share. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Okay, bye.